Hello and welcome back everyone. The ship is coming along really nicely now. We're getting close to the point where I could actually pretty much call it a wrap once I get this front all assembled properly, so we're just about getting to the point where I can actually do just that. I just don't know what else exactly I want to do. If I remember correctly, we still want to put shelling to kind of like get a nice consistent look. Fill out the back here some once the camera starts to cooperate, because there are a few rough spots here that could use a little bit of touch up. They're very minor ones, so I expect that to be relatively quick to fix. Would be a good way to go about fixing these things, because we do have a lot of choices for doing that. I think what I'm going to do with down here, to start off, we're going to use a component. Well, just as I'm saying that, I'm having like another idea, but let's go with my original seed first, and then we'll explore the other one. I was gonna have this here, flip it upside down, and then sink it into that little gap there once with proper scaling. And then what I realized, maybe I can use as like an engine port for like an engine underneath for a little bit as a thruster. That seems like a possibility too now that I think of it. Both work there. There's a bit of a lane, but we can easily remove that. A little bit of an eyesore. It's just a matter of making sure it looks proper. I almost want to kind of flush it back there, the metal trim, which may not be ideal. Actually, it works fine. And maybe it might be questionable to have a little thruster there, but I wonder if I should have like a pair of little tiny thrusters underneath there as well, because it seems like it could get away with it. Whoa, this camera is going to get a little annoying. It's becoming more and more apparent, isn't it now? That's going to be a shame. But yeah, little tiny micro thrusters to help with propulsion some. Oh, the reason this is in the middle, so let me just move it to the side. There we go. That fixes that. Now let's figure out what we want to do with this. If this is even the thrusters I want to put on it now that I think. Maybe this is the wrong component for me. Maybe I want to put a different kind on. I'm not really certain. Let's just sink it in and have a look. It doesn't really look like thrusters, to be honest. It's so tiny. So tiny it's kind of pointless. Anything bigger will do a lot more use. But the engines will help with the scaling some. The more I throw on there, more micro thrusters and all that, the better, I think. Now, we got these two corners that need to be patched up too. Just a tiny bit, round that out. So, what I'm going to try and do is possibly put one of these components on here and just sink it in. Nice simple fix that hopefully will do it for me. I don't know how big I want it though, that's the only problem. I also want to make sure it's nicely centered, because I don't think I want to ruin the lighting too much that's obscuring some. So we'll shrink it back some. Offset a bit so the metal trim kind of goes flush in there. There's going to be a tiny issue with the metal trim and back exposing itself, so let's sink it in. I'm rotating it some, and that should help a little. A tiny bit. I wonder if I change the set. Whoops. Damn it, that was a dumb idea. Oh well. Hopefully that didn't affect too much. I was wondering about stretching out more. That seems good. And do I have a copy? Yes. Yeah, I do have a copy. That's something I have to remember. It's very subtle. Actually, I kind of want the metal trim to be sticking out there. So, let me correct that. Although, metal trim is kind of small, at least like I said, it keeps a consistent theme to some extent. Yeah, when you look at it from afar, it doesn't look like much, but going in close, like with those tiny thrusters, it actually adds a lot. This tiny thruster is doing more for me than I probably realized, because it seems like, look at the back, it seems so much more bigger in scale. Now, how do I get more thrusters on here? Because I would like to put a couple more on here. I'm just not sure what. I think I had another idea that I want to try when I was encoding the last video. I'm just not sure how this is going to work. But I want to give it a try as well. Something I thought of while I was putting on this side component. I just gotta find the right spot. There we go. I was thinking of maybe having this stick out some and actually use this for like a larger like engine port. It's gonna be a little bit odd with it sticking out, but maybe we can make something work with this. Especially if it goes in flush with the back, maybe. Let's find out and see. We're gonna have it back there. Let's see how it looks first off. A lot of it seems pretty good. The metal trim seems acceptable. It sticks out some. I don't know if I want to stretch out more, or even stretch it inward some. So we'll have to try and see. Stretching out more means I have to offset a bit more. It seems apparent. But I'm wondering, is that good or not? It sticks out a bit. I'm just not certain what to make of it, to be perfectly honest, because it changes the dynamic a little bit. I wonder if I want to put more components on there. Before I put a final decision on this, I think I want another component sticking out to somewhere around here. Question is, what kind of component could I use that would be good for that? Something that will stick out to the same extent. That might work decently well. Can I get away with like another engine component up top here? Maybe that's what I'm looking for as far as something that sticks out. I don't know if this will work or not, because we're gonna have to fill out the front as well if I'm gonna go through with this. And is that scaling too big? Short answer, probably is. But I would like to keep that lane there if possible. Which means I have to stretch up quite a bit. Yeah, that helps a little bit with this portion sticking out here, so it doesn't seem as much of an eyesore. It seems more deliberate. So I like the potential this has to offer. Now, we just gotta adjust the scaling some. Little bit problematic, but if I use this component right, maybe that's not an issue. Unless maybe there's another component I can use that has lighting on it. Here's a thought. What if I use this instead? I don't know if this is a good idea, dumb one, considering I'm going to use that for, at least attempt to use it for my front. I don't know how it's going to look like a smaller version of it. So we'll give it a try and see. A lot of this is going to be, well, cosmetic stuff, so as if the entire ship isn't already cosmetic, just for appearance sake. All the weapons are still going to function the same in that, so my justification for all this is pretty a poor point, isn't it? Alright. A lot of smaller lighting there seems a little odd. Only little issue I dislike, unless I put a shell over it next. Maybe that's what I want to do. Shrink it down a little bit more and then put some kind of good shell on it that has lighting. Can this component do it for me? I don't know if that's the placement I want though. So let's give it a try. Whoops. There. I was not getting the... That seems to work surprisingly well actually, as it is already. Which kind of hurts my plans. It almost already works as is. This is not what I intended. Yeah, especially if it's sinking as much as it is, it's going to be a little bit odd. Do I carry on? Let me focus with what I was trying to do first. I'll just hang on to that idea later on down the road for when I do get to that point. And I think instead I want to invert this some, because it might look better with it like this upside down. The offset's going to be a pain as usual. But we'll figure this out somehow. Actually, let me flip it backwards. This is going to be a little bit odd. I'm going to give it a try, see how this looks. I'm going to focus on getting this all placed. Rotation is going to need to change a bit. Because I wanted to try and get this flush in. I don't think that's ideal. Let me flip it the other way, actually. Offset it again. And try and slowly work on making this seam flush. That's going to be a big concern. Big thing I want out of this. Going to be a little bit of a hassle. But that shell there kind of looks good as is. It's almost a singular piece with no really lapse or textures glazing over each other. How can I make this work? I want to kind of fill in that hole, so because this component's going to stick out a bit. And can I just make it fall downwards, sink downwards? Like I said, it's going to be a bit problematic because of how these angles are working. Not going to be the most efficient, to say the least. Okay, that's pretty damn close. Well, not quite flush. And that's going to be a bit odd, and of course that didn't really solve the lighting issue I had, did it? And we got these weird metal bars sticking out and going into the lighting. Not exactly ideal either. So much for this idea. So, what do I want to do? I think I just stretch the set axis some and make it sink into the back. That might help. Some, maybe? Stretch it a bit more. And we'll see. Now, how does that look when I move forward? It's better. Just a little bit of that metal trim there, but I guess that seems better. Don't ask me where this metal don't ask me where that metal came from. If any of the engineers ask, just say it was already there. We'll fix up later. Because I see I have a few ideas how to start fixing up some of these gaps. At least with the metal trim, but that's going to take a lot of work. Now back to what I had in mind. We now have the possibility of putting an engine on here. What's a good kind of dual thruster to put on there though? Because I want to have like two little thrusters on here. I'm just not sure if I want them side by side or on top. Actually, let me do more micro thrusters. These might be a little bit bigger than the ones on bottom though. That's the only reason why I'm not really wanting to put them on there. It just seems more consistent. It's the only thing. So let's see. Offset it. Wow, okay, that's the wrong duplication. There we go. That's better. Put you into place and see how that looks. Although there's a lot of open space there. Maybe not. Maybe this doesn't work to how I want it to be. Unless I want 3 thrusters on there. That's the only thing I can think of. I'm curious, what's the scaling for these bottom thrusters? Can I find that out somewhere? They're only scaling 16. Interesting. So let me try that. Let me try doing that then. Have them scaled around the same scale. And see how many thrusters I could put on there, and is that a good idea or not. If I were to guess, it's probably not a good idea. Unless I shrink this back portion some. Yeah, the lighting sinks in there some, the only thing issue I have with it. Sinks into the superstructure, which isn't ideal, so let's try something else. Move this back up to whatever I had it. And apparently, yeah, that metal trim's still a tiny eyesore, but we can put another component to fix that on. See, shrink this down to as small as possible. Just to feel a little, just barely noticeable, but it fills in the gap. This should work pretty well. Just gotta get the right size I want. Again, more metal trim. That's the only issue. Is there something that I can use that's a little more bare, maybe? Well, pretty much all of its block here has metal trim on it, so maybe not. Now back to this thing. Do I actually want one of these on there? The scaling is going to be a bit off compared to the two in the very back, so it might work, it might not. I don't think it's going to work. But it will, at the very least, fit in there very nicely. So I'm going to give it a try. I just got to shrink it down quite a bit with the set axis. And there, no one is the wiser. Now, do I keep the metal trim there or get rid of that altogether? Well, I think I need to offset it instead of shrinking. And that becomes problematic because now the front's starting to stick out. Maybe this is not going to work. That way, at least. What if I sink it downwards instead? Because there is a bit of... a little bit that I dislike. There. That looks a bit better. Not much, but a bit better. Unless I were to stretch up now. Which probably just puts me back to square one, maybe. How does that seem? Okay, it doesn't really look like it intrudes at all, so I think we're good. Now, let's see. I think now, with that component sticking out there, these side little wings, whatever the hell you want to call them, seems to be ideal. For more little tiny engines, but I want them to be small. And that does not constitute small at all. So we're going to fix it. And we're going to have maybe 2, maybe 3 if they're small enough. And sink them right in there. Adds a little more propulsion power to this thing. Probably getting on the point of overkill. But hey, I'm enjoying this process so far. We just gotta do a lot of little tiny managements to it. And of course just narrow it a little bit more. Oh, that's offset, stupid me. There, now let's try this again. Alright, this one thruster in. How much do I want sticking out though? That looks better with it sticking out like that, so let's try for another 2. Another 2 and see how it looks in comparison to everything else. Because these are kind of different, aren't they? Since they're more square, blockier. Not as consistent, but these are like a completely different component too, so I think we can get away with it some. Especially if these engines look a little bit bigger. Have like a bit of a running theme going with them. Gotta be careful that these things are a bit rotated, so that has this component sticking a little bit. Gotta be careful of that. I don't know. I don't think I actually do like that. Maybe I do need something circular. Alright, let me just scrap these 2 and try with the circular ones instead. Uh-oh. Did I get rid of 2 engine components and not realize it? Or did I get rid of 2 components and not realize it? What the hell did I just get rid of? I hope I didn't get rid of something important there. I'm gonna have to watch the recording. See if I accidentally got rid of something else. Because if I got rid of something, that would be bad. And I was going on at the start of this video how I was getting ready to work on the front. But camera issues, I'm going to blame it entirely on the camera issues that are getting in the way. Clearly, it's the camera's fault. But this will look better, I guess. It's the same kind of theme almost, but we'll give it a try. Sink them in. Well, actually, let me do the said scaling there. Shrink it back. And then sink it in. See how it looks. Gonna narrow it down some. Maybe. Unless I like that hook there sticking out as it is. I'm not sure just yet. I'm not quite sure if I like that hook or not. And it's hard to... Okay, there we go. And just as I was going to say that, I managed to get zoomed in there to have a good look. Now, second engines. Let's see. How do you look once you're in place? You're going to have to be offset a little bit. And I just found out you're only a single copy. It's a good thing I checked that. Or accidentally checked it, I guess, in this case. Because that's going to be a bit of an issue if I forget that. Now, get you in place. See how that looks. Already it's looking a bit better. Just a little bit. It's kind of odd, I guess. To some extent, maybe, having those being thrusters. I think we can go with it. I'm gonna have to think on it for a bit, I guess. Because we do got plenty of thrusters as it is everywhere else, so it should be alright. Because whether these stay or go, everything else is perfectly fine, so... Now, let's get this front assembled. What I think the main concern I'm going to have with the front, though, is due to the lighting being like the most obvious thing here, we're going to need to leave some space open for when I do like add trimming to it, I guess, or shells that kind of like help put on top of the center body there, because there's not really much lighting otherwise. And do I want to sink it in is a big good question. Do I want to sink in? Because we got a tiny gap there, I might have to raise it up some and then fill it out. Actually, let me just offset it up, see how that looks. I don't know. It fits almost in there pretty good, just as is. I do, like I said before, there's going to be I do probably want a bit of a filling or gap. Let's see what happens if I sink this into place. That's going to be shrunk quite a bit, though. It gives me room to like round it out, though. If I want, I could probably just round it out and then fill it in. Maybe that's not as bad of an issue. We're going to have to see how it looks, though. Because on the top, that's not bad. It's just a rough edge here. I don't know how it's going to look after I put something in there, though. So what would be a good component? And I know I've been using these components a lot there, and to be fair, they kind of work pretty well with what I have in mind. Is that what I want, though? Is that what I want? Because what are our other options? Maybe this component could be useful for something. I'm not really certain, to be honest. But I am curious, how will this work? It's got the same blockiness to it. I'm just going to have to rotate it and adjust it some. And maybe that could be useful for something. I'm not sure, honestly, because it is blocking a lot. And I don't know what I gain in the process. Especially with this big peg sticking out on both the bottom and top. So is that working for me or not? Not with that rotation. I think a different rotation is more called for if I'm going to keep it like that. It doesn't seem like it's in the most centered place either. I don't know what to think of this. I don't know what to make of that. It seems a little ridiculous. I like the blue lane there, but everything else texture-wise doesn't fit. If it wasn't for this metal trim, maybe it could fit. Do I keep it or not? I'm not sure. It kind of sticks out. I'll go with something else. Let's see, maybe I can use a portion of this to kind of put into place. Just not have a side, just have it in like this maybe as it is now. I don't know about scaling or anything like that, but again, blocking the lane kind of makes it a bit of an eyesore to an extent. There, we got one on both sides there. I think that helps a little bit. Again, the lighting is getting intruded. That's the only problem I have. So it doesn't seem like a natural fit. So I don't know. Maybe a couple more fillings, but let me work on filling the bottom here, which is already kind of naturally being filled out because they're in the of their placement actually. So that actually is working out well. Only thing left to do is fill this one little gap that's left. And this time, I think I might use the bottom of this thing as the visual rather than the top. Because it's gonna fit in there pretty well, maybe. Maybe. I better not count my chickens before they hatch, I guess. So, let's see. There is a tiny bit of a gap that's in the way. That is a bit problematic. Said scaling maybe could fix that. Not really, actually. What if I rotate upward? I'm gonna have to do 1 degree rotation. See if that helps. Because it doesn't need to be straight. Although it's still not doing it. There's still a tiny gap there. So much for that idea. So, ultimately, how does it look there? Probably not the best, but it is kind of really difficult to tell with low lighting and all that. It's not quite filled in. That's obvious. That's the main thing I should say. Maybe I should just stick with something that's actually blocky. Let me try this thing. I think that's like a storage box. I'm not sure if this is going to do it or not. A simple box, especially with the metal trim, and that lane I do not want. Keep that lane away from me. If anything, that just makes that little area even more obvious to the discrepancies on it. Now let's stretch it out and see how that looks. Because it's going to be stretched out quite a bit, I think. Considering it's already... yeah, it's at 200 scale now, so... metal trim is stretched to a ridiculous level, so maybe not that. That was meant for something entirely different, I think. So, what else can I try? What is this component? Oh, it's another bee tail, a little bit of a different kind of tail. I don't want that there, not this time, at least, so... what would be good? I don't think this is going to do it either, because I don't know why I think this would even work, to be perfectly honest. I don't think it will, because it narrows in, maybe, and of course part of it's going to be sticking out, so no, we're not going to go with that. It seems like we're so close. Maybe I'm doing this wrong. Maybe I should focus on doing something with this back portion here first and then work my way up to some kind of connection. Let's see, how do I want to start with this? Because this is mostly kind of fine it is. It's just this how flat this area is that I think is a bit problematic. I'm not sure.